Yo guys, and welcome back for another video. So today we're talking about the Wuthering Wave Cyberpunk Edgerunners collaboration, which I just finished last night on stream. It was about a 6-hour stream or so, and we did pretty much everything the Edgerunners collaboration has to offer. So I wanted to kind of give my thoughts about it and also explain why I think this is a part 1 of a 2-part collaboration. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so first off, I think the collaboration was as close to a 10 out of 10 experience as I ever could have imagined any collaboration being in a game, if not an 11 out of 10. My previous experience with other collaborations have almost always been a cash grab, as I've said in my other videos. They're not really meaningful. They don't really have like any actual story going on. It's usually just kind of a mashup that doesn't really make a ton of sense to try and just fit them into the universe. Wuthering Waves was far from that, and they did a phenomenal job. Kuro did an amazing job getting these characters into the world and making it feel fantastic. So, spoilers, if you haven't actually seen it and you don't know anything about the story, now would be the time to probably click off this video. Say it's Copium as much as you want, okay? I'm fine with it. There is no way that this collaboration is going down this hard. It's this good the whole way through. David Martinez is in the game, and there's not going to be a part 2 collaboration with David Martinez as a character. You cannot, I will hold this Copium. I will die on this hill. There's no way that this goes down like this. I don't believe. I literally don't believe. I will be here huffing the Copium for the next 10 years if I gotta. 20 years if I gotta. There's no way this collaboration goes down like this. David Martinez is literally in the game. His files are in the game, and he's not gonna be a character. I don't believe it. So the way that the story essentially works is that Lucy was able to somehow break through the Somme Noir, which is essentially a dream realm. It's the activity that we do weekly where it's almost like a roguelike event, and typically Ebony and Ivory, the gatekeepers that we know, are actually in charge of that space. But somehow, as I said, Lucy was able to somewhat break free and then travel through the Somme Noir, through the dream world, into a shared kind of version of the Somme Noir, where she was then able to exit and come out the other side over into our world for Wuthering Waves. As with any collab, if you're trying to mash stories together that aren't in the same universe, there does need to be some amount of hand wavy, like, just trust this works. But honestly, I felt like this worked rather well. It wasn't just like a random hole put in. It actually did use the Somme Noir, which has been a dream space that we have been aware of for a very long time. Even in the original chapter 1 patch, I think, is when we originally got introduced to what the Somme Noir space was, and we've had multiple events really building up the story of the Somme Noir and how it essentially is a dream-like space that can encroach on reality or the world of Wuthering Waves. Essentially, everything in the Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab is from Lucy's memory. So essentially, this means that Rebecca, the character we get to play and we get for free, is also from her memory because Rebecca did die in Edgerunners along with David. David is also present in the story, and so is Adam Smasher as well. David kind of plays like a key pivotal role as Lucy's like true happiness. David, or maybe his frequency would be a better way to think about it, is sort of split into like 3 pieces. Not exactly how it is, but it's kind of how it works in the story. By collecting those 3 pieces, it essentially allows them to tap into Lucy's happiness and use that in a way where they can be empowered to the point where they can actually fight Adam Smasher. Adam Smasher before this had been like invulnerable to their attacks, and so essentially by bringing Lucy's happiness back, by bringing David back, they're able to actually deal damage to her fear, right? Her greatest fear in Adam Smasher. Adam Smasher here kind of representing the other side of the coin, they say, from David. So while David is her true happiness, Adam Smasher is like the biggest fear and like most horrible like thing to have happened to her, right? That Adam Smasher killed David, for example. So what they end up doing is they end up making friends, obviously, with the Wuthering Waves characters, which is phenomenal. It's amazing seeing Rebecca get to meet Sigrika and Lene. Lucy also gets to meet like Dr. Herson and Mornier and Lucilla, and they have really really meaningful dialogues and developments that happen because of those interactions. Like Lucy and Mornier are able to kind of analyze the information and the frequency from Atom Smasher and figure out why we can't attack him, why he doesn't take damage. And then finally, once those are all connected, we're able to find David again and deal with Atom Smasher. And Lucy is able to somewhat get her like as happy ending as it could be on the moon. She's able to finally get that closure. Obviously, this is not the real David. Obviously, this is not the real Rebecca. But she's at least able to see them one last time, and she's able to kind of deal with her grief from losing them both, essentially right at the same time. This was a phenomenal story. I feel like in terms of storytelling, this, for me personally, as somebody who has seen Edgerunners and really appreciated the story and the characters in Edgerunners, I feel like this is, for me, up there with the 3.1 story with Aime. Of course, it's different characters, but if you are familiar with the Edgerunner franchise, they just did a great job with this. I've been seeing it go around the internet, and honestly, I 100% agree. This story basically feels like it's an episode 11 for Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It really wraps up and kind of gives you a little bit of closure with Lucy as a character, and to be honest, that just means, I think, the world to so many people that were a fan of this franchise. Having her story end this way gives Lucy the ability to deal with her grief that she's obviously having at the start of the collaboration, which should be probably pretty obvious to most people. With the way that Edgerunners ended, it would be no shock to anyone, I think, to know that she's going to be dealing with a significant amount of grief. And that was always, I think, one of the hardest parts of the Edgerunner storyline, was that you knew she was going to be devastated, right? Her whole world crumbled around her. Her significant other is now gone. She was working desperately to try and save him, and he ultimately ended up dying saving her. And that just is going to be something that she's going to have trauma with for a long time, or so we thought. And so by her coming here into the world of Wuthering Waves and dealing with that trauma, processing it, getting to see them one last time, essentially getting to tell them in not so direct words, I miss you, I loved you, you know? Getting to deal with that trauma in that way allows her to, even when she goes back to her world through the dream, she's able to wake up and she's processed internally, subconsciously, some of that trauma already. She's already getting comments from like the person that she talks to immediately. It's like, oh, you sound a bit better. Are you feeling okay? And she's kind of like, yeah, you know what? I am going to be okay. And all of that is like a crazy way to give her some of a happy ending. Now, obviously, you know, at one point I literally paused the entire thing and I was like, wait a minute. What if we just never play this again? Okay, hear me out, guys. Hear me out. What if we just don't? What if we just don't? What if I just never play Wuthering Waves again and we just end the game right here? If we end the game right here, it can't hurt us. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we just stay here forever, you know? Like, I feel like that wouldn't be that bad. We could just stay in the moment, you know? I understand. Yeah. Bro, it's gonna be sad. Low key want to do that for sure, man. Everyone's still here. I really, really think, please let David be a playable character at some point. A part 2 collaboration, I beg of you. Like, at least in my own weird way, then I could have Lucy and David together on a team, and it would be like something. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like not the worst possible thing.
This is a testament to my connection with the world.
And like, I know that like this is ultimately going to be them getting as close to a happy ending as like it could have been, but damn it, man, I love these characters and I'm going to be so sad to see them not here, you know? And part of me did just really want to just stay there forever kind of thing. Just let that be the way that Edgerunners ends. They escape to another world and finally get to live their lives the way that they would potentially want. I don't think it would come as any surprise that like the people in Edgerunners didn't love Night City. You know, you ask Lucy if she loved Night City and she says she didn't love or hate Night City. And I feel like a lot of people will end up feeling that way. It's always about the people around you that really bring you back home. And for her, she lost all those people. She doesn't have them anymore. So Night City is no longer going to feel like home for her. And it even does come up that there would be potentially an option to let her stay. She chooses to go back. And I think that that's important in a way too. It kind of lets her show that she's ready to move forward with her life. You see a little bit in the background that she actually does have her own place on the moon. And so she did kind of try to move on already. But clearly, because she wasn't sleeping, she has issues that she still was trying to deal with. Again, I think that the story for Wuthering Waves has always been so good. And Kuro's ability to tell stories now with the collaboration, I think has also really been shown with this collab too. I'm sure in other collaborations with other games, Kuro also did a really great job, but this just solidified for me that they're going to do a phenomenal job in any collaboration that they ever do. With all of that glaze being said, because I think it's important to get that glaze out there, because I seriously am blown away. I also think it's worth talking about how the collaboration could have actually still improved. So personally for me, there was some things that I feel like could have been improved just a little bit. So for example, the Night City location. It is not a full location. It's a very small hub of Night City that you can go and quote unquote explore. And other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot to it. It's a little sad though, because I really thought it was going to be like a full destination. I get why it probably couldn't and maybe even shouldn't have been, but I was really hopeful for that, and so I feel like they could have tempered expectations a little bit, but I think that's why they tried to say that it was specifically a Somme Noir, so that way you wouldn't get like thinking that it is like a full destination that you can go and explore, because it's definitely not that. You can't open the map, you can't do hardly anything from there, so like the usability while you're inside Night City is kind of annoying too. And then the only other thing that I had would be that there were many times where Lucy and Rebecca or one of the characters would say something to Rover, and Rover did the weird thing that happened in like 1.0 where they didn't let Rover talk that much. And so I'm not really sure why we went back to this, and maybe it just has to do with time and getting the like voice lines and stuff set up, but there were many times where they would say something to Rover and Rover would just smile or Rover would just nod. And so it does feel like they, like I said, reverted back a little bit, and I think that we need to make sure that that doesn't continue. I really think that Rover having their own personality is super important to the story of Wuthering Waves, because Rover isn't really at this point in time a self-insert anymore. What happens is in storytelling, when you have characters that don't say anything and you get to choose their dialogue and stuff, it allows players to self-insert into those moments and kind of feel like they're playing as the character, like they are the character. But I think it really hurts storytelling in I think like a crazy way. It does let the player self-insert into the character more easily. It does also make it so there is a certain amount of distance between the main character and the corresponding characters. You can't get those relationships that we've built with Rover and Imeth, or that we've built with Rover and Lene, if all they're doing is smiling and, you know, nodding their head and stuff like that. It just doesn't work that way. The conversations need to be a two-way street in order to build that relationship properly. There's a reason why in old games like, you know, even Legend of Zelda, while it might be one of the best games of my lifetime and one of my favorite series of my lifetime, those games don't focus on building connections with characters. And Wuthering Waves is very much leaned into that, where building connections with characters is, I think, the identity of Wuthering Waves, and one of the things that draws players to it and keeps them engaged with the story long term. Overall, literally, guys, I think I would give the collaboration still a 10 out of 10. Although I did have my gripes with it, and, you know, by definition, that means it's not perfect. It literally blew me out of the water that a collaboration could have anything even close to this. If you had asked me what a 10 out of 10 would have been previous to this experience, I would have said some gameplay elements, you know, maybe a character, maybe a free character, and, you know, a jank story that takes like 20 minutes to get through. This was a multi-hour story for a big update of the game, which has an impact on Rover as a character and the experiences that you get to see with Lucy and Rebecca and David. It's so much more than I could have ever asked for from a 10 out of 10 that I think it just deserves a 10 out of 10. And for me, this has become what I want everyone else to try and get to. I think this will always be like the North Star for me personally on what I want a collaboration to be. And ultimately, it's gonna tear down my evaluation, I think, of other collaborations that we've done recently, which, you know, is a bit sad, but it is what it is. This is the new, what I want to be the golden standard. I want them to achieve this level of storytelling, and I want them to achieve this level of bringing the characters in. You really do feel like you are standing next to and working together with Lucy. You do. You see her grief. You hear her voice. Like, you know exactly what she went through. You spend time in her apartment with her where she reminisces about her life with David and what it was like living there and living in Night City. It was an incredible ride. And honestly, I can't say anything else. It just was an incredible ride. And I'm so thankful that I got to experience this. If you guys liked the video, like the video down below. Comment down below if there's anything that you thought was really impactful for you. Like, what was your biggest moment in the collaboration? And who would you like to see them collaborate with next? Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.
But in Night City, there's only one way to become a legend. Flatline. Don't make a name for yourself by how you live, but by how you die. He launched a full-blown assault on Arasaka Tower. All to save me. In the end, he did. I lived. But he and Rebecca, they died that night. And eventually, I did go to the moon. Alone. You know, David? The moon. It's too quiet without you. In Night City, legends come and go. His might fade as so many others have. But I won't forget. I never will. Even if it hurts.